Hey everyone, hope you all are well. The first thing I'm doing today is priming the eye area with the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I've added a few swipes of this to the eye area and now I'm using a synthetic brush just to blend that into the lid. And this will allow you to really get your shadows to pop, it'll allow them to last all day and to just generally look their best. I was sent out the Urban Decay Ultra Violet palette recently and I adore the Naked range, you all know that. But this palette though, I'm just a little bit unsure. I was definitely expecting more. When I think of Urban Decay, I think of purple, so I was expecting some really vibrant purple hues, but it's kind of half a purple palette. And then I was like, well Eimear, it's part of the Naked range. It's a little bit more pared back, but then Urban Decay described the shadows as hyperpigmented and velvety, which I just don't think they are. You'll see for yourself now anyway. The palette comes with a double-ended brush and I always like the addition of the brush, and for the most part I find the brush is really good. Here you have a smudger brush on one end followed by a blending brush on the other. So the first shadow then I'm taking is called Optimized, and this is a lovely light lavender shade. It's definitely more of a satin finish and I'm using the blending brush end of that brush to apply this into the crease, and as you can see it's very light in appearance, pastel like if you will, which I actually do enjoy. I do like how this shade looks. It took a couple of layers to build up the colour, but once I'm kind of happy enough with how it looks, then I'm moving on to the lower lash line and I'm using the smudger end of the brush here to blend some of that shade down along there. And once I'm happy then with the colour placement, I'm flipping the brush around using the blending brush end just to smoke everything out to make sure that it looks nice and soft and blended. Now I'm taking the shade Cyberpunk, which is a medium toned purple with a shimmer running throughout, and I'm using a flat C-shaped brush to apply this shade. And as you can see, it's not applying as dark on the lid as it looks in the pan. It kind of has warm pink undertones to it, and that's what I'm seeing now on the lid. So the coverage is okay. It's really not what I expected though. I thought the purple was going to be, I just thought it was going to pack more of a punch. I applied the shadow with a brush. I applied it with my finger at another stage, kind of to build up the pigmentation, and it did slightly. I even applied it wet, and yes, in this case the shimmery particles did pop a bit more, but it's not really a buildable shadow, I don't think. So once I have applied that halfway across the lid and pulled it up into the crease, then I'm using the blending side of that Urban Decay brush just to go over the edges in the crease to make sure that it fades in with the lilac shade that I applied previously. Then I'm flipping the brush over and using the bullet side just to pull that shadow down along the lower lash line, and I'm making sure then to apply it up on the edge of the eye so that it connects up with the shadow on the lid. Now I'm taking the shade Euphoric, and this is one of my favourite shades in the palette. It's a lavender tone, but it's got this gorgeous kind of blue to purple shift to it. Again, not very opaque on first application, but unlike the previous shadow, this one can be layered. So I'm just adding this to the inner half of the lid. And I kind of feel at this point, you wouldn't really think that I'd applied 3 different shadows to the lid. But anyway, I felt like I'd lost some of the intensity of that Cyberpunk shadow now when I was applying the Euphoric shade. So I'm just adding another layer of that now. Moving on to the shadow Purple Dust now, which is a dark purple and it has thicker shimmery particles than previous shades in the palette. I'm using this to deepen up the look now slightly, and I'm using the smudger brush end of the brush to press this into the lash line, and after just a couple of layers I decided to give up. But because I've added that to the top, I'm doing it to the bottom now as well, and I'm using a flat smudger brush to smoke this down along there, and I just decided to press it into the upper lash line as well just to see if it made a difference, but it didn't really. Now I'm using the shade Digital to, I suppose, try and deepen up the look slightly further, and Digital is a more kind of reddy brown and this applied much better. So obviously this is a predominantly purple look, but I do love a bit of depth. So I'm smoking this out on the outer third of the eye and then softening things up with the fluffier side of the brush, and then I'm patting the shadow down onto the lower lash line too. To break up the purple a little bit, I'm using one of the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On eye pencils in the shade Love Drug, and I'm running this inside the eye on top of the waterline, coating both top and bottom waterline. From the Game of Thrones collection now, I'm taking this pencil called Winterfell, and I'm adding it to around the tear duct of the eye to act as a base for the shadow that I'm applying next, just to really make it pop. And I actually think this combination, this pencil and the shadow, is a match made in heaven. The shadow I'm applying is called Lucid, and this is my other favourite shade in the palette. It's like a white with a green blue shift to it, and I'm using a pencil brush to apply this shadow over the top of the base, and I just think it adds just a really nice pop to the look. Then I'm taking the new Urban Decay mascara called Lash Freak to blend my own lashes in with the false ones. I've already added some of the So Sue lashes. This mascara, it's okay for the minute. It's very wet, and I know that in time, when it dries out a bit more, when it's a little bit older, it'll perform much better. But then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you'd like to see me try and do more looks with the palette, do let me know, and I'll keep you posted.